Want to leave a legacy.
I'll just tell you what it's like.
Grandpa, what does it mean to be a Webb?
Well, I don't know, mechanically minded, you know?
Okay.
Yeah. Fabricate, you bring something up, we'll make something out of it.
Okay.
Basically, the Webbs do.
What's that?
So basically, the Webbs do.
Just like that pull machine I'm fixing over here. I got it blueprinted right here.
You can see it in your head. Okay.
Yeah. Like most people, they gotta have a book to put a transmission back together.
Mm-hmm.
Once I look at it, I can tell way how it has to be assembled. I don't need schematics to put it together. The only thing I have to have is specs for thousands for clearance and adjustments for pressure test and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as assembling,
You
I
can see
know
it.
how the pieces go in.
Hmm.
Give me a watch, the old grandfather clock. If I tore one apart a couple times, I could probably reassemble it.
Okay.
If you get the second hand, what do you call it, the wheel that goes back and forth for the minute, or the, I call that a wheel, forget what it is. The motor that makes the watch run. Now that I have to work with that a little.
Okay. Okay.
I can take. Did you ever make a electric or a motor for Boy Scout out of 2 nails?
I think a long time ago where you wrapped the coil around it. Yeah.
Now that, if you can do that, you know how electricity works in a motor. But majority of people can't figure that out, how fields work and positive and negative forces. You know, you got the South Pole and the North Pole. But you have the same thing in a motor. You got a north and a south. So it's going to be pulling all the time. If you get the field set right and the little commutator to feed the current in.
Yeah, it never stops.
Never stops.
That's what a Webb, that's what defines a Webb, is knowing those type of things.
Just like here the other day, I just seen a family. I built 2 of them motors for a fellow's daughters to pass a college course. That's been over 50 years ago. I done that.
What is your first memory of a tractor?
Probably 4 years old.
Okay.
A Caterpillar.
Or a yellow Caterpillar?
No, it was an old Clee track over at Kossuth where Carl is.
Okay.
My dad got a big one over there. It was a monster.
Huh.
Yeah.
Wow.
I remember him putting a gum boot on the top exhaust and starting it up, and that thing went up in the air. I thought 50 feet in the air. I can still remember that.
And Leslie said not a bug. That happened to Matthew in school.
Yeah. Yep, I remember that. Yeah. They asked him to draw a caterpillar, and he was the only one in the class that drew a tractor. And everyone else drew a bug. Huh. What about, I know Dad has a picture of, well, it'd be your dad, my great-grandpa, well, on Alice Chalmers. Can you remember that?
Oh, that tractor, that's the one that's over there over at the garage.
Garage right now.
Yeah, that orange one. The one that's the old WC. 37. I'd have been 7 years old.
Okay. Can you remember when he got that then?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
He got that in March 1937.
Wow.
That was a new one.
Now, that was down at what, Kossuth?
No, over down to Valley Church.
Okay.
You know, down where Bill Webb lives there, below the Cup Hill there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, was that one of the first in the
What he had.
area?
Yeah. It was one of the first Alice Chalmers in the area. Donaldson started selling them. He had a Fordson tractor with steel wheels that stuck out in the field with the disc on. So this Archie Donaldson that took on the Alice Chalmers, he brought it over, pulled the Fordson and the disc out with it, and my dad said, leave it here. And he didn't have the money to buy it, but he got a loan somewhere. It was the first combine around the area in 1937.
Wow.
Yeah, that combine run from 1937 to around 1941.
Okay.
It was pretty well wore out, and he got another new one in 1940, just about the time the Second World War started.
Okay.
And we cut all over it. And I started using that, running that combine at 15 years old.
Wow.
I even come down here at this one farm right over here, and I brought it in and cut wheat for that Art Snyder place. He said, "What are you going to do, fella?" I said, "Cut your grain." And I was only
Impressive.
15.
Wow.
And I cut a lot of grain. Then, about 1947, I'd have been 17. We got a corn picker. It was mounted on that tractor. We picked corn all over the place. It was all self. Just looked like an animal going down. We go through the 2 rows of corn. We had 2 dump trailers. We could pick the most corn, but it didn't husk it good. That was the only problem.
Okay.
Alice Chalmers didn't make a good husking tractor, husking picker. So then, let's see, I run that to about 1949. That's when I started working out more, helping pull wells. And, I done a lot of work then on wells. When I was in school, Guy Weaver over there at Ashland, he'd take me from the schoolroom when school was out and take me down and help start one of them Bessemers that you tramp on the wheels. Then when we got it running, he went and took and brought me home. And he was in his 70s then,
Wow.
and he had a bad hip. I don't know how he ever got around that hip, how he wobbled.
Huh.
Then on, I just kind of done mechanic work, and welding everywhere.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned pulling wells. That's something also I think associated with being a Webb is
Oh yeah.
drilling wells or pulling wells or capping wells.
One thing that's interesting, I didn't know this until when did Bob or Dan and them get the Iron King? Got to be 6 years ago. I never figured out why my dad, his father, been my grandfather, went out west. But he was one of these guys restless. He didn't want to stay at the same job all the time, routine. So when my dad, my dad was born in 1900.
Okay.
February 1900, around 1899, he picked up his wife and moved to Bowling Green, Ohio. That is an oil field, and that's where he settled for a couple of years. Pulled wells and drilled wells. Well, that went on for a while, and that's where my dad was born there, in Bowling Green, Ohio. So we got his birth certificate, wasn't it? We found it. Remember, Jane?
I don't remember which paper, but yeah, we found
Yeah,
these.
it's in Bowling Green, Ohio. I'd like to go to the courthouse and see it, but never did. Then he stayed there till probably, I don't know how old my dad was. He moved to Idaho then, and that's where 4 more boys was born in Idaho. Yeah, his dad worked fruit farms out there and made steam engine tractors run, keep them running.
To help pick the fruit or
Cultivate the ground around the fruit trees.
Okay.
They stayed there until about 1917 or 18. Because my dad, he didn't get in the First World War. He was old enough that he didn't make it in the First World War. You know, 1918 war. He didn't make it in there. So he helped drill wells back here. He drilled wells up until 1940, 41. My dad drilled wells. That's
Out-
what he
out here.
made a living. Drilling wells. And then in 1943, he had cleaned out one just up here by Nineveh. And the pulley broke back at the end of the mast that they had using to do this jerk line. And it hit him on the side of the cheek here. You could look down through here and see his tongue from up here.
Wow.
And he didn't go to the hospital to get that fixed.
Oh.
They done this right out of Knox at Doc Cale's office. He was laid up for better than 6 months. But we had good neighbors. We didn't run out of food.
It sounds like it.
And then my dad, you see, he had an oil lease over there where Carl is. That run day and night. He pumped gas into a line. But it wasn't very much. It was lucky if they got 8 cents a thousand for it then.
Wow.
But it made little. But what happened then, these wells would quit pumping and water broke in. Things kind of backed up and kind of went backwards. Even there at the farm, when he bought the farm in 1935, and well, he bought it for sure sale. And the people he bought it from, they were perturbed. He didn't know how he got the money. But my dad worked with another guy. His name was Frank Hughes, and he liked my dad. And he signed a note for my dad to borrow the money. Yeah, he was a good man. And my dad always kept his wells running and his equipment running.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was very good. And I know then people he bought the farm, but they couldn't figure out Walter Webb buying that farm. It was like $9,000. And at that time, that was in 1929, and you know, in 1929 the Depression hit, and they went bankrupt. That big farm did there. They drilled like I think 8 gas wells, and then in 1929, the spring of '30, the gas went kaput. No money, no sale. That's when the bank foreclosed on that farm. But he paid that off. Year that I can remember when I started welding. So my brother Walt, the oldest, we went out to plant corn, and we went out and we put the fertilizer in the corn planter back at the barn. Went out to the field to plant it. We put the fertilizer or the corn planter in gear, and we broke a cog just like that. That fertilizer settled in there like cement. We learned then you don't travel with the fertilizer in the hopper until you're ready to plant. So we took it back in, and at that time we had an old welder. My dad run with a belt off of the tractor, and I said, we're going to try and weld that gear. Well, I got that gear welded together, and we planted the corn the rest of that field. So I figured as a welder from then on. I was 13. Wasn't very old, but we got her done. Then let's see. Well, that's one reason why I don't like pancakes. I think we ate pancakes for 3 months. Breakfast, dinner, and supper. Breakfast, dinner, and supper.
Pancakes and oatmeal, right? You don't like oatmeal?
I can eat it now, but I couldn't then. But Bert Black, and the Dodds. Harley Dodd, that would have been Leroy Dodd's dad and mother. I remember they brought a ham or two up for us to have meat.
Okay.
And we had a few chickens. The eggs, seems to me we had eggs, but I know we had, for a while there, we didn't have much to eat on the table. And then for the flour, we had buckwheat then, we'd take it in an ox, they'd grind it, and we made buckwheat cakes. It had the hulls and everything in the cakes. You think we got roughage? We got it. The best time of my life, I think, is when I met her.
Oh, yeah?
When she was out helping her mother level the yard off. I was working, I worked for Donaldson's. I was working for them. And I drove a dump truck for them. I wasn't not mechanic work every day, but
Yeah.
they had this dump truck, so I was hauling for the township. And we hauled shale, and I was going down that road past where she lives, and I seen that girl up there. I seen another fellow. I said, do you think I could get a date with her? And he got him. This here, Jimmy Beals got me a date with her. And that's the time I got her.
Down at Emlenton.
Out there in the country, yeah. Still a country girl.
So what was your first date like?
First date? Boy, that there, I don't know. It was just where'd we go? I can't think. Probably went to a movie.
Okay. You don't remember what the movie was?
No.
Okay.
Can you remember the first movie we went to, Jane?
No idea.
No. She was more of my caliber. From the country, where'd go? She's milked cows. She cleaned chicken coops.
What has Grandma meant to you?
She's my pillar.
Okay. She's there for you.
If I think I'm not doing right, I ask her, what do you think? She gives me an answer, a thought of it.
Okay.
That way we go right. Because, man, I changed jobs like you can't believe. I worked here, there. And,
So Donaldson's and gas company? And...
well, I worked for Donaldson for 18 years. Well, take it back, 18 years. We worked there till 1960. You know, we went out to Albuquerque. Grandma and I did. We worked there 8 months and wasn't making any more out there than I was back here. Renting this house for $35, and we was paying like $85 for a house out there for rent. The wage was a little bit higher, but no better, so we come back.
So you moved out to Albuquerque for a few months? So Dad was out there too?
Oh yeah, your dad and Sherry for
Huh.
8 months. Moved everything we had here on that.
Load on a truck.
Had a 1-ton truck, loaded it on.
And drove out. No air conditioner.
Though our first trip was out with the 51 Ford. Out and back, we done around $50 worth of gasoline.
Round trip.
Round trip.
Wow.
Then we come back, and then I went, the Donaldsons wanted me back working again. I went back working again.
Okay.
Then in when was that? Fall of 65, I started working for Quaker State, but it wasn't a safe place to work. I worked there from the fall of 66 to the next year. November 66, I started for the gas company.
Okay.
Day after Thanksgiving. I worked there, and then that's where I worked until 1987 and retired. Went in as a welder and come out as a welder. The time welding was interesting. I mean, mine was wasn't repetition. I had to move all over or travel, like Sharon, Du Bois, Butler, lay gas lines, make regulator stations. They give you a diagram. You built these things up to cut the pressure from 500 pounds down to 4 ounces. And there was foremans that couldn't read them blueprints. Now the test in 1972, all the welds didn't have to be x-rayed. But after 1972, they had a university blow up in Pittsburgh because a welder made a shoddy weld on low pressure. This is ounces.
Okay.
And the pipe sheared off, and it killed 1 or 2 students. So after that, all welds will be x-rayed. So if somebody puts a shoddy weld in, the weld shouldn't have broke. You make a good weld, and the building can shift and bend the pipe before it'll break.
Okay.
Well, this pipe broke. So then, in 1972, all the welders had it. There's welding on main lines or stations and stuff. They had to take a weld test, and it was rough. We had what I call a T-test and a butt weld. And over half the welders bid off the welding. Didn't want that stress. But I knew I could hang in there and make it. Then a hot tap, they don't shut the gas off the line. We put a fitting on the line with the gas in it. And you hook it all up and go out and drill that coupon out and put the gas going and never interrupt service.
Wow, that's kind of dangerous, isn't it?
Yeah. Today, they take sonograms of the pipe
Okay.
to know whether it's not laminated or something. But when I done it, we just hit the chip and hammer and see how solid it was and put it on. It had to be car just to see if the pipe was good.
Okay.
Now you can weld it on as long as you don't burn through
Yeah.
and the gas won't blow out, you see.
Yeah.
But if you burn through, then you'd have a lot of gas blowing. But you could, as long as you could see good, you could get up on that fitting, go down the pipe and back up. You had to be fast, oscillating. Like them new guys come in there and they fabricate stuff together. If somebody don't show them how much weld will pull, most of them will set it up square and weld it, but when you get done, it pulls out of square. So you gotta know how much weld stress is gonna be on it, make it square when it get done welding. I had the same problem with pipe. We'd make spools maybe 18 inches long, and this was on 6-inch pipe. And if you welded that spool up together with the exact 18 inches, and you welded up, it would be pretty near a 1/4 inch short to put down there. That's how much it would shrink. So when you made a setup, you'd make that a 1/4 inch longer than what the space was for it in, and squared it up good, and welded it up. I made 3 of them, and they fit right down snug. But I knew how much my weld would shrink after welding that many years. They had 4 runs. They come off a 12-inch pipe on this side, 12-inch pipe on that side, and these things come up with big tube turns, and these regulators would cut the pressure from like 300 pounds down to 4 ounces in the other end. And they wanted to change regulators, so I had to make these spools fit right in. You couldn't put no come-alongs in and pull them or push them. It had to fit, or else you had to take it to a machine shop and turn the flanges so it would set down there.
Hmm.
I had it down pat that they never took one of them back to the machine shop. I just knew how much that my space and how much weld would shrink.
Wow. Takes a lot of skill to do that.
How's that?
Takes a lot of skill.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't learn it in 1 year.
You showed me a micrometer once, and
Mhm.
you said, "Don't forget what a micrometer is, to measure the pipes."
Yeah, the thousands.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Being I never finished high school, and there's people that had high school graduation, even up at work, they couldn't understand the thousands and micrometers. I mean, our pipe it's like 3.375 or 0.219. That's the thickness of pipe. Some of them people didn't understand what that was. That's the thousands of pipe.
Mm-hmm.
So I retired then. I mean, I enjoyed the welding,
Yeah.
but I couldn't see staying trying to make another 200,000 working for the company.
You retired there in '87, so you were 57 years old.
57,
things.
welding, repairing, mechanic work.
Fixing, finding old gas engines, steam engines, tractors.
Help other guys out.
Yep.
Give them a lot of information. And magnetas, they're something else you don't understand. Electric magneta has got to make a current that sets a spark.
Mm-hmm.
And 23 years this, first October, it's been 23 years from out of the gas company.
Wow.
And my pensions is still the same that day I retired to now. I've had no increase.
No increase.
And I lost over half my pension by retiring at 57. Social Security the same way. I don't get near. If you work till you're 65, you get full pension on Social Security. I don't. I get less than half.
Hmm.
And that's been the same from the day one I retired, because the company paid me that Social Security money I got when I turned 62. Then it stayed the same. Social Security took over,
Yeah.
and insurance, Medicare, and a good life with 3 kids.
Yeah. Bob born in there in '55.
Bob's 55, Sherry 54. Huh? I
Yep.
was hoping your dad retire here in another year or two.
Yeah. No, Dad was born in '55.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Bob's 55 now, isn't he? 55.
Yeah. Yep.
And Sherry's 54 and Dan's 44.
Speaking of skill, you were in the service as well, right?
Yeah, 1952 to 54.
And you took a test. You missed about becoming an instructor by a few points. Is that right?
Did what?
Missed being an instructor.
Oh, I could have been an instructor if I wanted to be.
Oh, you could have. Okay.
I could have, but I didn't want to stay there with them. They're alcoholics.
Okay.
I took Korea.
And you were a tank mechanic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I only had 8 weeks basic for infantry,
Okay.
and the other 8 weeks was schooling. Where if you was in the infantry, you had 16 weeks of marching out there, on the ground.
Hmm.
I only had 8 weeks of it. Then I didn't get too much of it.
Okay.
Like, Grandma come down to see me one time, and I wasn't in there.
Hmm.
They said he didn't go AWOL because he didn't collect his pay. I got KP a lot of times.
Okay.
But, yeah, we even took bivouac in a state park like Cook's Forest,
Mm-hmm.
And when it was out in that state park there in Maryland, it was a public state park.
Okay.
But there, that's when I had road oats. You ate your breakfast. You wasn't under no tent.
Yeah.
And when we got it, by the time I got it to where I could sit down, I didn't have to spoon it. I just drank it.
Drank it.
Korea, 18 months.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, went in there. They still dropping the bombs when I went in.
Mm.
Let's see, 1953, May 17th or something like that. They signed the armistice, but some of the North Koreans didn't stop. They still was putting the, there's probably 3-mile projectiles out,
Okay.
Afterward they quit. But up close to 38th parallel, it was still dangerous up there.
Mm-hmm.
But
But you were back in the support lines.
Yeah, I was back about a mile and a half.
Okay.
And then after they signed the armistice, you couldn't walk around the ground. You had to have the ground checked for these little personnel mines, like a D battery, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You walk in one of them, they could kill you or maim you.
Yeah.
So after
Toe
that,
popper.
yeah. Then after that, why, we run the tank for 3 months, 3 tanks with flail chains on the front, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It was 10 feet wide. We sure used a lot of gasoline, but I would never walk. If a tank wasn't run there, and we had the Korean Army people there, they generally got off the tank to bring the gasoline hose up, put it in the tank. I never got off the tank. I wasn't going to get down the ground.
Yeah.
Unless
Well,
I knew I had a track where the tank
had been.
Then I could walk across it.
Yeah.
But you didn't dare to walk off the ground if you didn't sweep it. Yeah, a tank mine will tear the tracks off a tank.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it's
Yeah,
M25.
ones we had was about that big around, about 2.5 inches thick.
Yeah.
But we had tanks that the tracks was off, and we went and put together. But I never was riding in one that blew off.
Okay.
But that's where the seat belt, you only had about 4 to 6 inches of headroom.
Mm-hmm.
And if you hit a tank mine, you could break your neck in there when that ripped off. It would jerk the tank that quick.
Wow.
But most of them had to have we had seat belts in the front up where you run the tank. But they're altogether different now. See, they're gasoline operated.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're all diesel.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't load from on top. You load the tank from behind, big open doors.
Yeah.
It was around September 24th, 1954 I got out.
Okay.
Because I was about 18 days coming back from Korea to the States.
Okay.
Flew from San Francisco back to Fort Meade. They discharged me and give me $700, and I got a plane ticket. Or they flew me to Pittsburgh, and that's where Grandma picked me up that night.
You learned some Korean.
Oh yeah, I knew something like Daijobi's okay.
Yeah.
Toxon's big, Skoshi little, Dinky's electric.
Okay.
I forget what gasoline was now. I did know that. But we had a light plant running at the one building there we had for the gatehouse. And we had a electric light plant, something like that gray welder I had over there, the
Mhm.
one you like your dad had. And they come over to the tent where we were standing there. Korean said, Skoshi Dinky, that's what it was. Electric was getting dim.
Okay. When you think of Jesus, what comes to mind?
He's a lifesaver.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's our eternal life. Yeah. And let's see. Probably 1944 is when I knew the Lord.
Just at church or someone
At the
talked to you?
church.
At the church? Okay.
Yeah, we had a missionary group here. Not a missionary, evangelists.
Okay.
The Kutz sisters.
Hmm.
They were from out east, but they were good players. They liked the accordions. All 3 of them could play accordion.
What church was that with? Was that just
Up
at
in Nineveh.
up in Nineveh? Okay. So you've been at Grace Church all your life then?
Mostly. We went to Valley Church. It was still open down there then.
Okay.
That wood church there.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went to Shippensville. My mother drove over there quite often before we went up to Grace Church.
Okay.
That would have been 1935 to... Yeah, let's see. When do I remember going up to Grace Church? Probably 1940.
Do you have a favorite hymn?
Yeah, He lives.
Favorite verse or passage or book?
John 3:16.
Okay.
For God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son. If you believeth in him, he has everlasting life.
What advice would you give to your great grandkids?
Listen to their advice well. Think it over 3 times before you jump into it, at least. Well, some of them guys, they just jump into it and start working, but you got to back up and look at it again. Then it don't look like. Think it over again.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've seen it when they had to cut out stuff, and if it had just thought a little more when they was making a tube turn or something, wouldn't take as long. like going to Albuquerque. She helped to make a decision what we were going to do. She would have stayed if I had stayed, but it wasn't the place for us to stay. So we made a good home here. We've been here since 1950, August 55, or no, September 55. And I was always somebody in trouble. They call, I go out, and probably 99 times out of 100 I got them out of trouble. Yeah. He wasn't going out after, like my sister's husband, out on a railroad track somewhere with a car that, under the influence, or somebody stuck, somebody's car wouldn't start, or somebody froze up in gas, right, Mom?
Yeah. I remember growing up in school, and I would always say I was Ray Webb's grandson. They said, "Oh yeah, I know him. He helped me out and did this, or helped me out and did that."
Yeah. I got a lot of people out of trouble. Some people there was once I had when the train wrecked in Emmelton, that was the closest fire I ever had. They had a crawler down there with a high lift on, and the belly pan was all full of diesel fuel. Well, I was going to weld this here arm that broke off, and I just struck an arc, and flame come up around that engine everywhere.
Wow.
That's when Scrooge Weller was nearby. He got a fire extinguisher and put that out. That was the closest fire we had.
Wow.
The only thing I don't know about much, I like her for that computer. She can understand, I can't yet. Boy, that there is fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, your turn, Grandma.
That's fine.
Here to bug on Grandma's hand.
Okay, here we go. Thank you.
Hey, Aaron. Haley, look here.
Oh, here.
Grandpa,
Dad,
can you do the thing with your teeth?
what's you do?
Watch. Look at Grandpa. Look at Grandpa. No,
Grandpa,
What?
Aaron.
take your teeth out.
Oh no! Look, Aaron.
Look at Grandpa, Aaron. Do it again, Ray.
He's trying to do it too.
Yeah, he kept going. Why is he there doing
Something just
I should have done.